The garage door would not close all the way. It hung crooked on its tracks, a 3-inch gap at the bottom where November crept in with wet leaves and the smell of other people's garbage. Norman sat on an overturned bucket and watched the light change through that gap, gray to darker gray to blacken. He thought about how a man could spend 40 years painting other people's walls and end up staring at his own reflection in a neighbor's oil stain. Gloria came up behind him. He could feel her before he heard her, the way she moved through cold rooms like she was apologizing for taking up space. She put a hand on his shoulder. "They served us papers," she said. Her voice was flat, not broken. Gloria had stopped breaking in 1994 when the pharmacy laid her off, and she spent 3 weeks crying into the kitchen sink before she picked herself up and took the night shift at the 24-hour CVS. She did not break anymore. She just got quieter. "Papers," Norman said. "Eviction. We have 14 days. The neighbor's dog started barking next door. Somewhere down the street, a car door slammed. Normal sounds from a normal world that had nothing to do with 2 old people in a garage that smelled of gasoline and lawn fertilizer and the faint chemical ghost of someone else's weed killer. Norman looked at his hands. They were 76 years old, speckled with age spots and the permanent gray crescents under the nails that 40 years of painting had etched into his skin like a signature. He had held a brush in those hands for decades. He had painted the interiors of 312 houses in the greater Portland area, not counting the repaints. He had raised a son in a house he had paid for with those hands, and now that son had locked him out of it. "I need to tell you something," Norman said. Gloria sat down on a stack of old newspapers. She was 73. Her hair had gone completely white in the last year, not gradually, but all at once, like a light switch. The doctors said it was stress. The doctors did not know the half of it. "That tin," Norman said. "The one I put in the wall." Gloria's eyes moved to his face. She remembered. Of course she remembered. She remembered everything that was her curse, the way her mind held onto details like a bear trap, the exact date of every bill they had ever been late on, the precise shade of blue of their son's baby blanket, the smell of the hospital hallway the night they brought him home. "The house on Maple," she said. "Before we moved in, I plastered over a crack in the living room wall. I put a tin inside. Why? Because I knew," Norman said, and the weight of those 3 words hung in the cold garage air like a held breath. 2 weeks earlier, on a Tuesday in October, their son Marcus had come to the house on Maple Street with a real estate agent and a locksmith. Norman had been in the backyard, trimming the hydrangeas that Gloria had planted in 1985. The shears were old and dull, the same pair he had used for 30 years, the handles wrapped in electrical tape, because the rubber had cracked. He was thinking about how the fall color had come early this year, how the leaves were turning brown instead of red, how everything seemed to be dying before its time. He heard the truck before he saw it. A white Ford F-250 with dealer plates, the kind of truck that cost more than his first 3 houses combined. It pulled into the driveway and parked behind Gloria's 2003 Corolla, blocking her in. Marcus got out. He was wearing a Patagonia vest over a button-down shirt, the sleeves rolled up to show his forearms. He was 42 years old, and he had his mother's jawline and his father's eyes and nothing else that belonged to either of them. "Dad," he said, not a question, not a greeting. A statement of fact, like reading a name off a document. Norman set down the shears. "Marcus." The real estate agent got out next a woman in her 30s with highlighted hair and a Bluetooth earpiece and a tablet clutched against her chest like a shield. The locksmith stayed in his van, engine running, waiting for instructions. "We need to talk," Marcus said. Norman wiped his hands on his pants. He was wearing his painting pants, the ones with the paint stains that would never come out, the ones he had worn on every job since 1987. The fabric was thin at the knees. Gloria had patched them twice. "Your mother is inside," he said. "I know. She's making lunch. This won't take long." Marcus walked past him toward the front door. He did not look at the hydrangeas. He did not look at the house he had grown up in, the porch swing he had broken when he was 12, the window of his old bedroom where he had taped posters of cars he would never own. He looked at his phone. Norman followed him inside. Gloria was in the kitchen. She had made tuna salad the way she always did on Tuesdays, with celery and a little bit of relish and the good wheat bread that was slightly more expensive but worth it. She had set out 3 plates. She had not heard the truck. Then she saw Marcus's face, and she stopped moving. "Mom," Marcus said. "Sit down. I'll stand." "Sit down, Gloria." The real estate agent's voice, smooth and practiced. She had done this before. She had stood in other kitchens, watched other old people sit down, watched their hands tremble around coffee cups that had suddenly become too heavy to lift. Gloria did not sit. She picked up a knife from the counter, the good paring knife, the one she had bought at a garage sale in 1992, the one that could cut through anything, and she held it in her hand like she had forgotten she was holding it. "What's going on, Marcus?" Norman said. "The house is in my name." Marcus said it flat. No apology, no softening, just the words dropped onto the kitchen tile like a bag of rocks. "It's always been in my name. The deed, the mortgage, everything. I'm selling it." Norman heard the words. He processed them. He felt them land in his chest like something solid and cold, a stone where his heart had been. "That's not true," Gloria said. "It is true." The real estate agent again, pulling papers from her tablet. "I have the original deed here, filed with Multnomah County in 2003. The property was transferred to Marcus Whitmore on June 15 of that year. Your names appear nowhere on the title." "Show me," Norman said. She handed him the tablet. He looked at the screen. There it was in black and white, the language of lawyers and banks and people who knew how to take things from old men who trusted their sons. Marcus Whitmore, sole owner. He remembered 2003. He remembered the refinance. Marcus had come to them with a stack of papers, said it would lower their monthly payment, said it was just a formality, said they needed to sign here and here and here. Norman had trusted him. Why wouldn't he? This was his son. This was the boy he had taught to ride a bike, the boy he had painted his first bedroom blue for, the boy he had put through community college and helped buy his first car and never, not once, asked for a dime back. "Where are we supposed to go?" Gloria said. Marcus did not look at her. "There's a shelter on Burnside, or you can find an apartment. I don't care." "You don't care. I've been paying the property taxes on this house for 10 years. I've been covering the insurance. You think that's free? You think I don't have a life?" "I have a wife, I have kids, I have a mortgage on my own house. I can't keep carrying you." "We never asked you to carry us," Norman said. "You asked me to sign papers. You told me." "I know what I told you." Marcus's voice rose for the first time. The real estate agent put a hand on his arm. He shook it off. "I told you what you needed to hear so you would sign. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked." Gloria set down the knife. She walked to the table and sat down. She folded her hands in front of her, the way she did at church, the way she did at funerals, the way she did whenever she needed to keep herself from falling apart in public. "How long?" she said. 14 days, the agent said. "That's not enough time. It's what the law requires." Norman looked at the walls of his living room. He had painted those walls. Every room in this house, every ceiling, every trim, every door frame. He had mixed the colors himself, matched them to Gloria's fabric swatches and magazine clippings, applied them with the brush he had carried since 1979. He knew every imperfection in every surface. He knew where the drywall had cracked and been patched, where the plaster had bubbled and been smoothed, where the nail pops had been filled and sanded and made invisible. He knew exactly which wall held the tin. "The living room," he said. Everyone looked at him. "What?" Marcus said. "The living room wall. The one facing the street." "Dad, what are you talking about?" Norman did not answer. He walked to the living room. The light was different now, the afternoon sun angling through the bay window, illuminating the dust motes that hung in the air like tiny suspended universes. He stopped in front of the wall opposite the fireplace. He put his hand on it, feeling the texture beneath his fingers, the slight unevenness where the plaster had been applied 44 years ago. "Here," he said. Gloria had followed him. She stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. "Norman," she said. 1979, he said. "The year we bought the house. There was a crack in this wall right here. Running from the ceiling to the baseboard, I plastered it over. I put a tin inside." Marcus laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had already won and was watching his opponent try to play a card that did not exist. "A tin," he said. "Like a time capsule." "Yes. What's in it?" Norman looked at his son. He looked at the face he had changed diapers for, the face he had watched sleep in a hospital bassinet, the face he had seen grow from a child to a teenager to a man he did not recognize anymore. "The original purchase contract," he said. "And a sworn statement from the selling realtor." Marcus stopped laughing. The garage was cold. The space heater the neighbor had lent them put out a thin orange glow that did nothing against the November damp. Norman and Gloria had 2 sleeping bags, a camp stove, a cooler with sandwich meat and cheese, and a cardboard box of clothes that smelled like mothballs. 14 days, Gloria said. "We won't need 14 days. Norman, the wall has been sealed for 44 years. You don't even know if the tin is still there. It's there. You don't know that." He looked at her. In the dim light of the heater, her face was all shadows and lines, the geography of a life lived hard and well and honestly. She had been beautiful when he met her. She was beautiful now. He had told her that every day for 52 years, and he meant it every time. Gloria, he said, I put that tin in the wall because I knew someday someone would try to take this house from us. I knew someday we would need proof. I was 20 years old when I learned that you can't trust anyone with your home. Not your brother, not your best friend, not your own blood. She waited. In 1959, my father lost our house, he said. My uncle forged his signature on a deed transfer. We came home from church one Sunday, and there was a moving truck in our driveway. We had nowhere to go. We lived in a car for 3 months. Gloria said nothing. She had known him for 52 years, and she had never heard this story. I was 12 years old, Norman said. I watched my mother cry every night. I watched my father break dishes in the sink. I watched them disappear piece by piece, until they were just two hollow people who didn't know how to fight anymore. He picked up his paintbrush. It was old, the bristles weren't asymmetric from decades of use, the handle smooth from his grip. He had used it on every job since 1979. He had painted walls with it, ceilings, trim doors, cabinets. He had painted the house on Maple Street with it 3 times over the years, once when they moved in, once in 1992, once in 2005. I put that tin in the wall, he said, because I swore I would never let anyone do to my family what was done to me. I would leave a record. I would leave proof. Even if I was gone, even if I was dead, the truth would still be there. He looked at the brush in his hands. The bristles were worn down on the right side, a permanent curve from years of cutting in along edges and corners. It was a tool that had become a part of him, an extension of his arm, a witness to his life's work. The brush, Gloria said. I know. You said you'd never throw it away. I never will. She reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were cold. They were always cold now, no matter how many layers she wore. The pharmacy label maker sat on the floor beside her sleeping bag, a heavy gray machine from 1978 that still worked, that still printed crisp black letters on yellow tape. She had used it to label medication bottles at the pharmacy. She had kept it when they laid her off, a small piece of her dignity that no one could take away. We'll get the tin, she said. Marcus won't let us in the house. Marcus doesn't know about the tin. He'll be watching. Let him watch. Gloria's voice was steady. Let him watch us take back what's ours. The house on Maple Street was dark when they approached it that night. Norman had waited until 2 a.m., when the neighborhood was asleep and the streetlights had cycled to their dimmest phase. Gloria walked beside him, carrying a crowbar in her right hand and a flashlight in her left. She had wrapped the flashlight in a red cloth so the beam would not carry. They had left the garage through the back window. The neighbor's dog had barked once, then stopped. Norman had trained it over the years, slipping it bacon when the neighbor was not looking, teaching it that his smell meant treats. Dogs remembered kindness. Norman had learned that lesson well. The front door of the house had a new lock, a shiny brass deadbolt that gleamed in the streetlight. Marcus had changed the locks that afternoon. Norman had watched him from the garage, had seen the locksmith drill out the old cylinder and install the new one, had seen Marcus pocket both keys and drive away without looking back. But Marcus had forgotten the back door. The back door had a lock that was older than Marcus himself, a simple latch mechanism that Norman had installed in 1981. It could be opened with a butter knife. Gloria had brought a butter knife. She slid it between the door and the frame, found the latch, pushed. The door swung open. They stood in their own kitchen. The tuna salad was still on the counter, growing a gray film. The plates were still on the table. A half-empty glass of water beside the sink, condensation rings marking the passage of hours. Don't turn on the lights, Norman said. I know. They moved through the darkness, navigating by memory. The hallway 3 steps. The living room entrance, turn left. The fireplace warm against the wall opposite flat and smooth and hiding a secret. Norman put his hand on it. The paint was cool. He had painted this wall in 2005, a soft beige that Gloria had picked out of a catalog. He remembered the day, the way the light had come through the window, the way the paint had gone on smooth and even, the way he had thought about the tin behind the plaster waiting. Here, he said. Gloria handed him the crowbar. He looked at the wall. He had painted 312 houses in his life. He had never damaged a wall intentionally. Every surface he touched, he left better than he found it. That was his code, his religion, his reason for getting up in the morning. He swung the crowbar. The plaster cracked. It was a clean break, a straight line that followed the old crack he had sealed in 1979. The plaster crumbled, falling in chunks to the hardwood floor. Norman kept swinging, kept breaking, kept opening a hole in the wall of his own house. Behind the plaster there was lath. Behind the lath there was a cavity. He reached inside. His fingers touched something cold, something metal. something that had been waiting for 44 years. He pulled it out. It was a tin. A simple metal tin, the kind that had once held cookies, the kind that people used to sewing supplies or old photographs. The label was gone. The metal was rusted at the corners, but it was intact. Norman held it in his hands. "Open it," Gloria said. He pried off the lid. Inside, there was a stack of papers. The top sheet was yellowed, the edges brittle, the ink faded but still readable. It was the original purchase contract for the house on Maple Street, dated September 15, 1979. Norman and Gloria Whitmore buyers, James Thornton seller. The price was $500. Beneath that was a second document, typed on letterhead from Thornton Realty. It was a sworn statement notarized and signed, dated the same day. Norman unfolded it and read, "I, James Thornton of Thornton Realty, Portland, Oregon, do hereby swear and affirm that the residential property at 1423 Maple Street is being sold to Norman and Gloria Whitmore as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. The property is being purchased with funds provided entirely by the Whitmores, with no third-party involvement or future claims of ownership. I have witnessed the signing of all documents and confirmed that the Whitmores are the sole and rightful owners of this property, to be held by them and their heirs as they see fit, subject to no liens or encumbrances other than the mortgage held by First Federal Bank of Portland. This statement is made voluntarily and without coercion in the presence of a notary public, and shall serve as a permit of the true ownership of the property at 1423 Maple Street, Oregon. Signed, James Thornton, September 1999. The signature. There was a notary stamp. And beneath that, in a different ink, a handwritten note. Norman, keep this somewhere safe. You never know when someone will try to take what's yours. J. Thornton. Gloria read it over his shoulder. When she finished, she did not speak. She just put her hand on his back, between his shoulder blades, the way she had done for 52 years. Norman folded the documents carefully and placed them inside his jacket, against his chest, where his heart was beating faster than it had in years. "We should go," he said. "Not yet." Gloria. She picked up the crowbar. She walked to the wall opposite the fireplace, the wall that faced the street, the wall that Norman had painted 3 times over the years. "What are you doing?" "There's something I need to check," she said. She swung the crowbar. The plaster cracked. She swung again. The lath splintered. She swung a third time and the wall opened up. She reached inside, and she pulled out a second tin. Norman stared at it. It was identical to the first, same size, same shape, same rusted corners. But this one had a label, yellowed and peeling, with handwriting he recognized, his mother's handwriting. He took the tin. He opened it. Inside there was a letter. It was written on lined paper, the kind that came in spiral notebooks, the kind his mother had used to write shopping lists and to-do lists and notes to herself that she would lose before she finished writing them. The letter was dated May 3, 1959. "My dear Norman, if you are reading this, it means I have found a way to leave you something. I don't know when you will find this, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 50 years. But I need you to know the truth. Your father did not lose this house. It was stolen. Your uncle Charles forged the deed. I have the proof. I have hidden it in the wall of the living room, behind the crack that runs from the ceiling to the baseboard. I have written everything down, the names, the dates, the bank records, the notary's confession. I am sorry I could not protect you. I am sorry I could not fight harder. But I have left you a way to reclaim what is yours. Do not trust anyone with your home. Do not trust anyone with your name. The only thing that belongs to you is what you can prove. I love you, Norman. I have always loved you, your mother." Norman read the letter 3 times. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet. He had not cried in 40 years, not since his mother's funeral, not since he had stood in the rain and watched them lower her into the ground and realized that he would never hear her voice again. "Your mother," Gloria said. She knew. She knew what Charles did. She knew everything. Norman's voice cracked. "She put it in the wall. The same house, 44 years before I put my own tin in the wall." Gloria took his hand. "She was waiting for you. She was waiting for me to find her." Norman looked at the 2 tins, side by side on the floor. His mother's letter, the realtor's statement, the original contract, proof upon proof, generation upon generation, a chain of evidence that stretched across decades. He looked at the hole in the wall. The plaster dust settled around his feet. The cold air from the cavity seeped into the room. And Norman Whitmore, 76 years old, retired house painter, father of a son who had betrayed him, began to understand that some walls were built to protect, while others were built to hide the truth. The truth was out now, and it could not be put back. The truth could not be put back, but it could be carried. Norman folded his mother's letter with hands that remembered the weight of a paintbrush, the feel of a ladder, the patience of waiting for paint to dry. He placed it inside the second tin, beside the first, and closed the lid. Gloria watched him. She did not ask what he planned to do. She simply stood by the hole in the wall, her arms crossed, her breath clouding in the cold air. "We need to talk to someone," she said. "Who?" "Someone who knows about forged deeds. Someone who can read that notary's confession and tell us if it's still worth anything." Norman looked at the tins. "It's from 1959. The notary is probably dead. The confession isn't. And neither is the bank records." He nodded slowly. "There's a lawyer in town, old man named Prescott. He was friends with my father. Can you trust him?" "No, but I don't need to trust him. I need him to tell me if this is enough to take back what's mine." The next morning, Norman drove to Prescott's office. It was a small building on Main Street, the kind of place that had been there so long it looked like part of the sidewalk. Prescott was 83, thin as a rake, with glasses so thick they seemed to magnify his eyes to the size of quarters. He read the letter, the deed, the notary's confession. He read them twice. Then he set them down on his desk and removed his glasses. "Norman," he said, "do you know what you have here? A piece of paper. You have a land claim that predates your uncle's forgery. You have a notary's signed confession. I knew that notary, by the way. He died in 1972. He was a drunk. He confessed to everything before he went, but nobody believed him because nobody wanted to believe him. Your Uncle Charles was a powerful man in this town. I know. The power is gone now. Charles died broke. His son, your cousin Robert, sold the land your uncle stole to a development company 5 years ago. They built a strip mall on it." Norman's jaw tightened. "The land my father owned, yes. But here's the thing." Prescott tapped the letter. "Your mother never signed away her rights. She was the legal owner of this property, Norman. Not your father, not your uncle, her. And she never sold it. She never transferred it. She never gave anyone permission to forge her name. So the land is still mine. The land is still hers. And since she died without a will that transferred it, and since you are her only surviving child, the land reverts to you. The development company built on land they never legally owned." Norman sat back in his chair. The wood creaked. The clock on the wall ticked. "What happens now?" "Now," Prescott said, "you sue them, and you will win." The lawsuit took 8 months. 8 months of depositions, document reviews, court appearances. 8 months of watching the development company's lawyers try to argue that the statute of limitations had expired, that the forgery was too old to prosecute, that Norman had no standing because he had never lived on the land. But Prescott was good. He was old, but he was good. He produced the notary's confession. He produced the bank records. He produced a witness, the notary's widow, now 91 years old, who remembered her husband coming home drunk night. He signed the false deed, remembered him crying, remembered him saying he had damned his soul for Charles Whitmore's money. The judge ruled in Norman's favor. The development company was ordered to pay restitution, the value of the land plus interest plus legal fees. The total came to just over $400,000. Norman sat in the courtroom and listened to the verdict. Gloria sat beside him, her hand in his. Lucas was not there. He had not come. He had not called. He had not responded to any of Norman's messages. The development company's lawyer approached Norman after the hearing. He was a young man, maybe 35, with a sharp suit and a sharper smile. "Mr. Whitmore," he said, "I want you to know that my client is prepared to settle out of court. They'll pay the full amount. No appeals, no delays." Norman looked at him. "Why would they do that?" "Because they want this to go away. The publicity is bad for business." Norman thought about it. He thought about the land his father had cleared with his own hands. He thought about the house his mother had painted yellow. He thought about the strip mall that now sat on top of it, selling fast food and discount electronics. "Tell your client I'll take the money," he said. "But I want one more thing." "What?" "I want a letter, signed by the CEO, acknowledging that they built on stolen land, and I want it published in the town newspaper." The lawyer's smile faded. "That's not standard. I don't care what's standard. That's my price." The letter was published 3 weeks later. It ran on page 2 of the Millbrook Gazette under the headline, "Development Company Admits Wrongful Land Acquisition." Norman read it at the kitchen table, Gloria across from him, a pot of coffee between them. He folded the newspaper and set it aside. "It's done," he said. "It's done." He looked around the kitchen. The same kitchen where his mother had made him breakfast. The same kitchen where he had sat with Emily the morning after they bought the house, eating cereal from mismatched bowls. The same kitchen where Lucas had learned to walk, holding onto the edge of the table, his small fingers gripping the wood. "I don't know what to do now," Norman said. Gloria reached across the table and took his hand. "You don't have to decide today." The money arrived by wire transfer a week later. $412,000 minus legal fees. Prescott took his cut with a handshake and a smile. "You did good, Norman," he said. "Your mother would be proud." Norman drove home. He sat in the living room, the two tins on the coffee table in front of him. He opened them both. He read his mother's letter again. He read the realtor's statement again. He read the notary's confession again. Then he took a third tin, empty, clean, purchased that morning from the hardware store, and he placed all three inside. He sealed it. He carried it to the wall opposite the fireplace, the same wall, and he put it back, not because he wanted to hide it, but because he wanted it to stay. Because some things belonged inside walls, not buried, not forgotten, but held. Lucas came back 6 months after the lawsuit ended. Norman was in the backyard painting the fence. It was spring again. The tulips Gloria had planted were blooming. The air smelled like damp earth and cut grass. The gate opened. Norman did not turn around. "Dad." Norman kept painting. "Dad, I need to talk to you." "I'm listening." Lucas came closer. He looked thin. His clothes were clean but cheap. He had a bruise on his jaw, yellow and green. "Healing." "I lost the job," he said. He said, "The one in the city, they let me go." Norman dipped the brush in the paint can. "I'm sorry to hear that. I lost the apartment too. I've been sleeping in my car for the past 3 weeks." Norman painted a long, even stroke along the fence slat. "Dad, I need help. I need money. I need a place to stay." Norman stopped painting. He set the brush across the top of the can. He turned to face his son. Lucas looked older. The lines around his eyes were deeper. The bravado was gone. All that was left was something small and tired. "I can't give you money," Norman said. "I know I messed up. I know I lied to you. I know I almost lost the house. But I'm your son." I can't give you money," Norman repeated, "because I gave it away." Lucas blinked. "What?" "The money from the lawsuit. I donated it, all of it, to the County Historical Society. They're going to use it to restore the old cemetery where your grandmother is buried." Lucas stared at him. His mouth opened then closed. "You gave away $400,000? "It wasn't my money. It was your grandmother's. And she would have wanted it to go to something that mattered. But I need it. I know you do." Lucas's face crumpled. For a moment, Norman thought he was going to cry. But he didn't. He just stood there, hands at his sides, jaw tight. "I don't have anywhere else to go," he said. Norman picked up the paintbrush. He dipped it in the can. He painted another stroke. "There's a shelter on Elm Street," he said. "They'll give you a bed and 3 meals a day. I know the director. I'll put in a good word. Dad, you made your choices, Lucas. I made mine. I love you. I will always love you, but I cannot save you from yourself." Lucas stood there for a long time. The wind moved through the tulips. A bird sang somewhere in the maple tree. Then Lucas turned and walked out the gate. He did not look back. Norman painted the fence until the sun went down. Gloria found him on the back porch that night, sitting in the dark, a glass of water in his hand. "You did the right thing," she said. "Did I?" "Yes. He's my son. He's a grown man. And he tried to take everything from you." Norman nodded. He took a sip of water. The glass was cold in his hand. "She would have taken him in," he said. "My mother. She would have let him stay. Your mother also hid a deed in the wall for 44 years. She knew when to fight and when to let go." Norman looked at the glass. "I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Neither do I. But I know you're doing your thing, and that's enough." Lucas did not come back. Norman heard about him through the town grapevine, a friend of a friend, a cousin of a cousin. He had found work at a warehouse on the other side of the county. He was living in a rooming house. He was sober, or at least trying to be. Norman did not reach out. He wanted to. Every day he wanted to. But he had learned that some distances could not be crossed with words. The house settled into a rhythm. Gloria moved in officially, her name added to the deed. She planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, tomatoes and peppers and basil. She hung curtains in the kitchen, yellow and white, the same color his mother had chosen 50 years ago. Norman painted the living room. He chose a soft blue, the color of the sky in late afternoon. He patched the hole in the wall, sanded it smooth, painted over it. The tins stayed inside. He could feel them there like a heartbeat behind the plaster. The seasons passed. Summer, winter, spring. Norman turned 77, then 78. He stopped checking the mail for letters from Lucas. The note arrived on a Tuesday in October. It was in the mailbox, no return address, no postmark. Just a white envelope with his name written in shaky cursive. Norman opened it on the front porch. Gloria stood beside him, a cup of tea in her hands. The note was short. "Dad, I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything from you. But I wanted you to know that I know what I did. I know what I cost you. I know what I cost myself. I'm working. I'm staying sober. I'm trying to be someone you could be proud of. I don't know if I'll ever be that person. But I'm trying. Thank you for not giving up on me. Luca as Norman read the note twice. His hands were steady. His eyes were dry. He folded it and put it in his pocket. What does it say? Gloria asked. He says he's sorry. Are you going to write back? Norman looked at the trees. The leaves were turning, red and gold and brown. They would fall soon. They would cover the ground, and in the spring, new leaves would grow. I don't know, he said. That night, Norman sat in the living room. The house was quiet. Gloria had gone to bed. The only light came from a single lamp on the side table. He took the note out of his pocket and read it again. Then he opened the drawer in the side table and took out a small wooden box. Inside was his mother's locket. He had found it in the wall behind the second tin when he had reached in to check if there was anything else. He had never shown it to anyone. He opened the locket. Inside was a photograph of a young woman with dark hair and a serious face. His mother, before she was his mother, before she was anyone's mother. Just a woman with a name and a life and secrets she carried to the grave. He closed the locket. He placed it back in the box. He placed the box back in the drawer. Then he took a piece of paper from the desk. He wrote, Lucas, I'm glad you're trying. That's all I ever wanted. Dad, he addressed an envelope. He sealed it. He set it on the table to mail in the morning. Gloria found him there the next morning, asleep in the chair, the envelope still on the table. She picked it up. She read the address. She smiled. Then she went to the kitchen and made coffee, the way she did every morning, the way she would do for as long as the house stood. The sun came through the window. It fell across the floor. It touched the wall opposite the fireplace, the wall that faced the street, the wall that Norman had painted 3 times over the years. The wall was blue now, soft and quiet. Inside it, 3 lay side by side. A letter from a mother. A statement from a realtor. A confession from a notary. A deed, a photograph. A lifetime of proof. And above them, in the plaster, a faint crack ran from the ceiling to the baseboard. Norman had never painted over it. He had left it there on purpose, because some walls are meant to show their age. Because some cracks are not flaws, they are open.